Hello. So, as you can guess, this is going to be a mouse theme video. We are going to be talking about The Rescuers, which came out in 1977. It's set in fairly modern day New York, or well, at the time, 1970s-ish type New York. Um, the movie starts out actually down in well, it's called Devil's Bayou is what it's just called. It's not stated whether or not it's in some place with the various bayous, so it's either in like Florida or Louisiana or Alabama, somewhere in that area. Because it's not ever specifically stated exactly where the bayou is. We see this little girl throwing a bottle with a note in it into the water. I'm trying to think of it. I probably could have made a bottle with a note in it, message in a bottle, and put that in the background, but I don't really have any bottles that would have worked for that, I don't think. Oh well, note for next time. Um, but we see this girl throwing this bottle with a message in it into the water, and then we watch the bottle as it travels through the water and everything, and somehow via weird currents and luck and plot devices, ends up in New York, where it's found by a bunch of different mice, who then take it to the Rescuers Society, or Rescue Aid Society is what it's called. We see New York, so we have a very nice picture here of New York at the time. And then, of course, we get the UN, so the United Nations, where we get this contrast between all these humans coming together that represent all these different countries and them coming all together. And then we see all of these mice coming together that represent mice from a lot of these different countries. And so there's a fairly good, observation there of, humans coming together to try to solve the world's problems, mice coming together to try to just help in small ways to make, things better type thing. The Rescue Aid Society is based off of the concept of the mouse that pulled the thorn out of the lion's paw. And so it goes all the way back to that. I don't remember the exact name of the mouse that they say started it, but it's like, I would say like Euripides or something like that. Mouse, it's just like some like Greek name mouse. It's, the Aesop's fable, I think, where it's, the mouse that pulls the thorn out of the lion's paw, and then the lion becomes the mouse's friend because, the mouse helped him. So now he's not going to hurt him. As you've guessed, I've gathered up all of my different mice Pokemon and my Pikachu shirt for this video. So, that's fun. As I stated at the end of the last video, I am not 100% sure at this moment in time when I am filming whether or not this is going to be a two-part video on the Rescuers, or if it's just going to be a full video with like part of the video being about the original movies and then a little bit about the miscellaneous things with the Rescuers, and then the other part being about Rescuers Down Under, which came out in, I think, 1990, if I remember correctly, but I'll double check my notes, of course, when I get to that point, when I talk about it. I just haven't watched it yet, so I don't know yet off the top of my head, and there wasn't a whole lot of bonus features on the disc, so there's not like I had a whole lot of like behind the scenes thing to talk about beyond some of the trivia that was listed online. So we'll see what happens with that. All just depends on how long this runs once I get it edited. So we watch the Rescuer Society as they start discussing this message in a bottle. And what they do is first they do this, their pledge, their theme, whatever, their motto type thing. And we're introduced to this one mouse who is a janitor, and this other mouse who is obviously a member of this society. The mouse who is the janitor's name is Bernard, and the mouse who is a member of the society, her name is Miss Bianca. Bernard is voiced by Bob Newhart. So the Newhart's, the Newhart show and stuff like that. I enjoy Bob Newhart. I think he's funny, even though, a lot of people are like, but he was like way off the air before you came along. Comedy is funny, no matter the era that it comes from. If something is funny and it's about like, wholesome things, and Bob Newhart tended to do quite a bit of wholesome comedy. And I've seen him on other things because he's been on The Big Bang Theory, and I've seen him on, I think he was on NCIS at some point. There were like a few other bits that they've shown, or that I've seen Bob Newhart on, and I enjoy Bob Newhart. And then they had Ava Gabor, who played Duchess in Aristocats, came back to play Miss Bianca, who is the Hungarian representative. Bernard is just simply a janitor that very much wants to be a part of the agency, but unfortunately he just hasn't really been given the chance because he's kind of looked down upon and they get, they pull the message out of the bottle. The thing with Bernard is he is very superstitious. They have a ladder, which is actually a comb that he climbs up, and there's like 13 steps on the ladder. So he's like, there's 13 steps on this, and he's, very, very superstitious with the number 13, which pops up periodically throughout the course of the movie. And they pull the message out of the bottle and they read it, and it's a little smudged in different areas. So it was like, Penny, help, I'm at Morningside Orphanage, I was taken, help, Penny, blah, 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 blah. And so Bianca is like, oh, let me do this. And the chair mouse, is kind of along the lines of, it's a dangerous place out there to send a woman, and like, she goes, well, then how about I take someone with me? Or no, it's, Bernard, makes a comment of, well, she can't go out on her own. He's not saying that she couldn't handle it. It's just, he's like, he has a crush on her, so he doesn't want her to go out and get hurt. So it's, it's a sweet thing there, I'd say. And so the chairman's like, okay, Miss Bianca, how about you take a co-agent with you? And like all the male mice are like, pick me, pick me, pick me. And she's like, I pick Mr. Bernard. So, they're the ones that get paired together, and he's just like flabbergasted by the fact that she chose him. And they start making their way to Morningside Orphanage, which is somewhere in New York. They make their way there. First, they try to go through the zoo, and that doesn't work. And then they do the long way around the orphanage. And once they get there, they find a box of Penny's things, and they're like looking through it. And then they interact with this cat whose name is Rufus. And Rufus explains that, or like, well, he first thinks that they're moving in. They're like, no, we're not moving in. We're part of the Rescue Aid Society. We're trying to find Penny. What can you tell us about her? And he explains that Penny is an orphan, which is very much, it's obvious. She's at an orphanage. She's an orphan. We don't know exactly if she's been like an orphan her entire life, or if she's only been there for a few years, or we're not 100% sure. But Rufus explains that the last time that he saw Penny, it had apparently been like an adoption day or something like that. And, there had been, this nice couple had come and they'd talked to Penny, but then they ended up picking this, redheaded girl. We don't know anything else about the redheaded girl, but they pick her, and Penny is very sad by this. And apparently Penny is kind of the trope. She has the ability to talk to animals. They don't specifically state whether or not it's, because she has a conversation with Rufus, and later on in the movie we see her talk to the mice and understand them. So it's kind of like the whole, the Cinderella concept of, oh, they can speak to animals and the animals can speak back to them and they understand them. Whereas with other humans that are in the movie, we don't see them particularly being able to interact with animals. Well, the villainess is able to kind of interact with animals, but yeah. But so Penny is very sad about this, and Rufus is trying to cheer her up, and he's like, well, no, it's just, we just have to wait for the right parents to come along, for the right people to come along and adopt you. And then he has this great statement, which is going to be the end quote for this video. Unless I end up finding another one in The Rescuers Down Under that I really like, but I really much like this quote that they have that Rufus says, and it's, faith is a bluebird we see from afar. It's for real and as sure as the first evening star. You can't touch it or buy it or wrap it up tight, but it's there just the same, making things turn out right. Penny quotes the end part back to him, and it cheers her up and everything. And Penny has this teddy bear that looks very much like Winnie the Pooh, that she keeps with her at all times. And she, Rufus helped cheer her up and everything, and then they go off. And then he makes a comment of like, well, that was the last time I saw her. And, they're like, well, is there anywhere that she could have gone or whatever? And he's like, well, there was this lady that kept hanging around the orphanage. And he's like, but Penny wouldn't have gone with her. And they're like, a woman? And I was like, yeah, her name, she owns a pawn shop a couple of blocks over. And so they head that way, and then they end up introduced to Madame Medusa, who owns a pawn shop, and she is the one that took Penny. She has an associate named Mr. Snoops who is down in the bayou with Penny. They captured Penny, kidnapped her and then took her down to the bayou because it's either they like kidnapped, well, they blatantly kidnapped her, yes, but don't know if like they just like tricked her into getting into the car or if they just like bag over head, grab, run. Never stated. But they listened to Madame Medusa have this phone call over a call over the phone with her associate, Mr. Snoops, and she's like, you're too lenient on that girl. I'm coming down and we're gonna get that freaking diamond because there's apparently a giant freaking diamond that she wants. That is in a very difficult to get spot, and that Penny's the only one small enough that they found that can squeeze her way in there and get the diamond. So they want to use Penny to get the diamond. So Bianca and Bernard try to go off with her, and that doesn't work. They crazy ride, and she has a car that's very similar to Cruella de Vil, and I'll go over the similarities to Cruella de Vil after I'm done with the explanation of the movie. And then they end up making their way down to they try to go in the car with her, and that doesn't work. They get knocked out of the car, and then they end up having to fly down to the Devil's Bayou. And so they go to the airport where they end up interacting. There's a Albatross Air Services is what it's called. And albatrosses are large birds that can fly very long distances without resting. So they're a very good bird to pick for this. If you've ever watched One Piece, I think the quote unquote seagulls that they use to deliver all the mail that Morgans uses to deliver the mail. Morgans is a Zoan albatross, so he can turn into a giant albatross, which is normally what he looks like. But this is an albatross in real life. They're rather large birds. I heard a weird fact on the radio the other day about I think this is correct, it was like the oldest banded bird that's still alive today is like 70 some years old, and it's an albatross, and it's had like so many, like 30 some different chicks that it's raised over the years, and like it's still going. I heard that in the news the other day. At this point in time, 2021, February 2021 is when I heard this. So depending on how far in the future you watch this video, I hope the bird's still alive, depending on, the bird. But they interact with this albatross whose name is Orville. This is a reference to, Orville and Wilbur Wright, the two men that, flew at Kitty Hawk, the first two pilots, blah, 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 blah. And he's kind of a clumsy albatross, but they ride with him, and he flies them down to Devil's Bayou, where they interact with two little, I think they're muskrats or swamp rats or something like that. And one of them is called Ellie Mae, and the other one is called Luke. And Luke is kind of the whole, they're kind of the hillbilly stereotype, unfortunately, where Luke always has like this jug of probably moonshine, in all honesty. The way that he drinks it, it seems more like lighter fluid. But the way that he tends to drink it and act when he drinks it. And then we get introduced to where Penny is. And it's this big kind of old, partially sunken steamboat. That was probably when it was, not sinking into the bayou. Quite spectacular, in all honesty. I've seen different steamships, and some of them are very, very spectacularly made and crafted and designed, and they're beautiful. But there's kind of a rundown one, and Penny tried to escape, and we have Medusa. Madame Medusa is there, and she sends out her, I don't remember if they're crocodiles or alligators, but she sends them out to go and find Penny, because Penny ran away. So they send her to, I don't remember if they're crocodiles or alligators. They're called Brutus and Nero. They're crocodiles. Okay, they're crocodiles according to my notes. Brutus and Nero, of course, named after, Brutus and Nero, who were different, emperors of Rome. Caesars of Rome and such. Yeah, because fun history things that kids aren't going to notice necessarily, but the adults will. And so they work their way. Brutus and Nero are going to the swamp to try to find, Penny, and Medusa goes off on her like gasoline powered jet ski thing, motorbike thing that goes on the water. I don't know exactly what it was, but she goes off on that to try to find Penny, and the mice see this, and they end up going on this little. Well, it's a motorboat. It's a leaf with a dragonfly attached to it. The dragonfly's name is Evinrude. Evinrude. And it buzzes them all over the bayou as they look for Penny, and the other mice, or the two country mice, basically the swamp mice, muskrats, whatever they're called, start gathering up a bunch of the other animals from the swamp to be able to help them try to save the little girl, because they've seen the little girl, they just don't know how to help her, because Penny has apparently tried to escape multiple times, which, give the kid credit. But Brutus and Nero unfortunately find Penny, and they drag her back. Penny doesn't really seem to be afraid of the two crocodiles. Mr. Snoops does, but Penny doesn't. Because Penny admonishes them at various points in time. I'm hoping she's well aware of the fact that they can probably crush her if they wished, but for some reason the crocodiles obey Madame Medusa. Never explained why they obey her, but they do. So they get Penny back. They send her up to her. Snoop sends her up to her room, gets Medusa back, because they use fireworks to communicate. When Medusa's looking around trying to find Penny, Bernard and Bianca, their little boat, kind of almost sank at one point when they were trying to follow the two crocodiles to try to help Penny, and they follow them back to the boat. And they watch Penny and Medusa and Snoops kind of interact, and then Penny gets sent up to her room, and then Medusa and Snoops are arguing over the fact of Medusa's like, well, you don't know how to handle a child, and I'm going to handle her my way tomorrow, and we're going to have her get that diamond because you're too soft. And there's this little bit about Madame Medusa, which, I was watching the movie, and it's supposed to be that anytime, it's the whole concept of, Medusa, you look into her eyes, you turn to stone. So it's supposed to be that anytime one of the characters looks into Medusa's eyes, makes direct eye contact with her, that they kind of freeze a little bit. And it's supposed to be that they kind of freeze in fear. Now, there are a lot of similarities to Medusa and Cruella de Vil, and as I said, I will go over them at the end of the movie, or at the end of the summary, but, you can see some bits. Medusa does tend to want the very good things in life, because one of the things that she wants this, as I said, this giant freaking diamond, which I don't have anything that would be the size of what this diamond is beyond, I don't know. I don't really have anything here that would work for the size of what the diamond is, but it's this big, diamond that would fit, between your hands, huge diamond. But he wants this, diamond that was hidden there by pirates, and Snoop shows her all this other jewelry and gems and everything that Penny's found, digging to try to find the devil's eye, as the diamond is referred to. And she's like, I don't want those. I want those tiny little things. I'm like, I'm pretty sure with most of that stuff, you would be set for life anyway, but your greed is getting the better of you. So yeah, moving on. But we get to watch as Penny ends up interacting with Medusa, and Medusa kind of tries to be a bit more on the sweet side with Penny, which, I think Penny can fairly see through it, but that's, Medusa tends to wear a lot of makeup and has these fake not eyebrows, but fake eyelashes that she uses, so we get the scene of her, peeling off the eyebrows or the eyelashes and taking off her makeup and everything. And she's telling Penny, I was like, no one's going to want to adopt a plain girl like you, type thing, because Penny just wants to go back to the orphanage so that way she can, get a mom and dad, because that's all she wants, is to get a mom and a dad. And and Medusa makes a comment of like, no one's going to want a plain girl like you. If you find that diamond, then we can, do what, don't you like it here with us? When, once you find that diamond, you can be, happy and everything. And I'm pretty sure Penny can see through this because she seems to be a rather smart girl. And we get Penny, and so Penny's very sad, and we see her and her Teddy. They say their prayers, and she's, her prayers kind of go towards, all of the people at the orphanage and the cat and everything, because she wants her friends safe. One moment, my dog is whining. Sorry about that. Dog should hopefully be quiet for a little while. You probably saw something in the backyard, as does happen with this dog. We have like 2 other dogs that live on either side of us, so he's just like, dog, 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 dog. Sorry. Back to Bianca and Bernard and Penny, who's just this very sweet girl. And I mean, Bianca, she's very, very sad, or Penny is very, very sad because she's she wants to go home. She wants to go back to the orphanage and see her friends and Rufus and everything, and get a mom and a dad. That's all she wants. And there's not really any, like, there's not over the top musical numbers or anything like that in this movie. There's songs that are used to set the mood. Like there's a song when Bianca and Bernard are flying down to the Devil's Bayou. That's just like, about journeying. And then this other one is kind of just about, hope and keeping your chin up and everything. So there's not really that many songs in the movie. I wouldn't consider it a musical because it's not like the characters are singing. But I still enjoy the music. It's cute. Throughout the course of the movie, we do watch Bianca be very sweet to Bernard, and he's trying to be very sweet to her too. He's trying to be brave at times, including when they end up getting chased by the crocodiles. Which there's a funny scene in the steamboat where they're getting chased by the crocodiles, and they end up in this old timey pipe organ type thing that would have been on the ship for entertaining the passengers. And one of the crocodiles starts like playing the organ to try to like not shoot them because they're in the pipes. So it's like use the air from the pipes to knock them out of the pipe. And, the other crocodile's like up here like trying to watch the pipes and tries to attack them. And then the organ gets destroyed. Bianca and Bernard and it being safe, the organ gets destroyed, and then Medusa comes out and like scolds the 2 crocodiles, and I'm like, they're not children, but she treats them like they're dogs. At one point, she's like very, very sweet, like, oh, my babies. And then she's like, just like admonishing them like they're children. So she's an odd character. Not a bad Disney villain necessarily, but not one of my favorites. But she still has her moments. She's kind of more... she's not the Medusa where she has all this power, the Wicked Queen where she has all this power, but she is, one of the more realistic villains. Driven by greed, driven by, not caring what happens to others necessarily, which is kind of, when you look at it, like Cruella de Vil, it's, kind of like one of the villains who can actually exist. I mean, at this point in time, we've kind of gone past the whole idea of, the queen or the witch or the sorceress or fairy or whatever with all this evil magic that can curse you. But, with Medusa and with Cruella de Vil and with the Wicked Stepmother and different things like that, it's still, villains and villainesses that can have their... that can have roots in reality, that they're based off of people that have actually done these things. People kidnap children, people take animals, people, will do it for their own selfish gain and not care what happens to the people who loved those children or love those animals simply because it's, it helps them succeed in what they want to do. Which, is something that, there are people that make those bad decisions and that don't care. Which is, they're more realistic type villains as opposed to, I'm going to put a curse on you and you're going to sleep for 100 years until you're kissed by true love. Or, whatever the case may be. But that's what happens with Medusa. she's one of the more realistic villains. And Bianca and Bernard then introduce themselves to Penny, and they, work on this little plan that they're going to try to do. It's like, well, if we can get the crocodiles out of the way, then we can escape. And they have this whole little plan worked up because the crocodiles really like Bianca's perfume, so they were going to like use her perfume and spray it in like this cage type elevator that was on the steamboat, and they were going to put them in there and then trap the crocodiles in there, and then they were going to set off a bunch of fireworks in Medusa's room to distract her and Mr. Snoops, and then they were going to get on Medusa's jet ski thing and then ride out. But that was going to be their plan, but that wasn't going to that didn't end up happening. It was a good plan. I'll give them that. It was a decent plan. But that wasn't going to happen, or that didn't end up happening necessarily the way they planned. Because they cut to the next morning, and Medusa and Snoops are dragging Penny to this. It's like a bucket that lowers you down into a hole, and the hole is, big enough that Penny and the bucket can fit through, but like nothing else is gonna fit through. No adults are gonna fit through this hole. And Medusa's being, very sweet. It was like, "What's you so cute, little girl," and everything. We've all had the aunts that are just like, "Oh, aren't you just the cutest little thing?" I will admit, I have nieces and nephews. You probably know this if you watched some of the earlier videos, because I may have mentioned it. When they're babies, okay, that's not bad. Toddlers, still fine. Once you get to, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 range, anything older than that, aren't you just so cute? In my opinion, because I've been on the other end of that too, from my aunts, on some of my aunts, that it's like, it's a bit patronizing. It's like, okay, I get it. I'm cute. Go away. But, we have her, just like trying to butter Penny up. You're going to go down there and you're going to get my diamond and you're going to bring it back. And then everything's going to be so perfect. And then she grabs Penny's teddy bear and she's going to keep it up there with her as a way of motivating Penny. And then they send her down into the hole, which, clever area for the pirates to hide their treasure. I'll give them that. It's a hole that seems to be cracked its way into a rock, and it may have been at some point like the pirates may have made the hole bigger or something like that. Or it might have been like a naturally occurring thing, because we see this like little geyser thing that keeps coming up in the middle of the hole. It's a little bit hard to explain how the hole works. It's kind of like there's so you go down the little tube into the hole, and it looks like it's in rock. And there's like this little alcove that's like carved into it. There's like some of the treasure, and like Penny's been through there, and that's not where the diamond is. And Bianca and Bernard are with her at this point in time, so they're trying to, of course, help her find the diamond. And because they can, go to a place that she can't get to. And they, there's this alcove here, and Penny is just big enough to be able to, she's just small enough that she can go in there. And then, there's the floor of the cave, and then there's this hole with, and then there's like another little section over here. So there's this hole where the water comes up every time like the tide starts coming in, the water starts coming up through that. So it's slowly meant to fill the hole, and then it drains back out of the hole, which over so many hundreds of thousands of years is of course going to wear away at the inside of this. And, the pirates may have, carved out a little bit more of it, like found this like natural area that you can hide treasure in. And then if you have like someone who's small enough, like maybe someone on the crew who's small enough, or probably because sometimes pirates would, capture children, have the kid go down there, gather up the treasure, and then send it back up, or send the kid down, drop the treasure all in there, and then put the treasure in there. Give or take certain circumstances. Some pirates, beyond what some things of Pirates in the Caribbean might make you think, are not always nice people. They kind of show that in Pirates of the Caribbean as well, but, this is kind of like the aftermath of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Maybe the skeleton would have been Captain Jack Sparrow. He never really succeeds in getting his treasure beyond booze. But so they're looking around, and they go into this other little alcove area that's on the other side of the gushing, the little geyser inside of it. and they find this skull that has this giant freaking diamond in it, because Penny's kind of waving around the lantern that they give her, and it like reflects off of the diamond inside the skull. And Bernard and Bianca see this, and they kind of went over there, and then Penny works her way over there. Like, the water is coming up and gushing in, and Penny wants to get out of the hole, but they found the diamond. And Medusa's up there, so it's like, the whole "bring me the diamond" type thing. And so they go over to the other little alcove area, and they find, there's this skull that has the diamond in it, and this is what the diamond looked like. And I admit, it is beautiful. And as I said, I don't really have any like fake glass diamond thing or whatever that's like that size. I have like smaller ones, but nothing that would be that big. Actually, if you've seen the Snow White one that I have, that glass apple that I have probably is around the right size for that. That's not up here. That's down on my bookshelf. But it's probably around that same size. Maybe a tiny bit. Maybe the gem might be like a tiny bit bigger. But it's called the Devil's Eye, and given the fact that it's inside of a skull of a pirate, can imply that. And Bianca and Bernard try to get it out of the skull, but it's too big to fit through any of the either of the eye sockets. So Penny grabs this pirate sword. Could have grabbed my cutlass, but she grabs this pirate sword, and she jimmies open the skull enough for the diamond to get out, and then they grab the diamond, and then the water keeps coming and gushing up, so we get kind of that dramatic moment of making sure the mice are okay, making sure Penny's okay, making sure they still have the diamond, and then they get into the bucket, and then they get dragged up, and Medusa like snags the diamond away from Penny, and she's just like admiring it. And as I said, this is another image of it in regards to Medusa having it and admiring it. It is beautiful, shows very beautifully in the sunlight, and Penny almost gets dropped back into the hole because Mr. Snoop lets go of the rope. And then they, he's complaining about the thing, we were going to split the diamond and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, no. We can't cut this. It's a perfect, flawless gem of this size. You can't cut it in half type thing. That would ruin it. I'm like, okay, by technicality, yes, I agree with you on that one. But if you sell it, then you can't split the money. But of course, Medusa is very greedy and very, I want this. So she's, gonna do it that way. So they all head back to the steamboat, and it ends up resulting in Medusa holding Penny and Snoop's at gunpoint, which I'm not putting in here. And Medusa is going to take Teddy back with her. She put the diamond in Teddy. And what ends up happening is Bianca and Bernard end up tripping Medusa, tripping her. And that drops the gun, drops the bear. Penny grabs the bear. They all try running. A bunch of the other swamp animals showed up to help and save the day and help Penny and save her. They do set off the fireworks, and Penny does end up riding off on like the jet ski with like Bernard and Bianca and a bunch of the other animals. And Snoops gets his comeuppance, and Medusa gets her comeuppance because she ends up on like part of the tower of like part of the tower of the steamship with Brutus and Nero at the bottom, like as you can see here. Which I'm like, yeah, once you take away whatever their incentive is for them to listen to you, of course they're gonna try to kill you. Probably waiting for a good kind to try to kill you anyway. I was like, well, let's work with this weird lady for a little while and see what happens. I'm like, that's just weird. I never understand that. But then all the swamp critters show up and help, as I said. Medusa's vehicle thing that she uses is just referred to as a swamp mobile. It doesn't have any particular other name than that. But they start, they all escape, and then we cut to probably a couple of months later where they show the Rescue Society watching a clip, or watching the news, where they show Penny getting talked to by a TV reporter because it's, this girl found her way back, and she had found this giant diamond that's now in the Smithsonian Institute, and she gave it to the Smithsonian Institute because, of historical value, and then she's adopted, and I'm like, okay, I really, really, really hope that the two people, that the mother and father that adopted her are good people and that adopted her because they love her and actually want to be her parents, not because of the fact that she's probably this really freaking rich kid now because she, usually depending on what you find via certain laws in the US, if you find certain treasure, you get a percentage of that treasure, of whatever the value of that treasure is. You get a percentage of it. Even if you like give it to something, it's like you're still usually given a percentage of whatever the treasure is worth. Because like they go over this in like national treasure, there's like, oh, you get a certain, there's like a finder's fee that goes with it. So I'm like, I'm really freaking hoping that she's gonna be, has good parents now. It's implied that Medusa and Snoops are arrested and in prison for kidnapping Penny. And Penny makes a statement in the movie like, I was helped by the Rescue Aid Society. They're a bunch of mice. And the reporter's just like, okay, kid, sure, yeah, cute kid. But Penny's just so adorable, and like all of the kids at the orphanage are there to wish her goodbye, and she goes off with her parents. And then Evan Rood, a little dragonfly, shows back up, and he gives him a new message about like, oh, there's this other, there's someone else that needs your help. I'm like, did some other kid get kidnapped and taken down to somewhere or whatever? So they end up flying on Orville, and it's winter, and they head off on a new mission because now Bernard is an official full agent of the Rescuer Society, and then of course him and Bianca are paired up, and they seem very happy together. They're not married, but they very much appear to be a couple. But so they do that. In regards to the production of the movie, not too much in regards to it. There's like a bunch of the Nine Old Men are part of it. It was last joint effort by several of the Nine Old Men: Milt Kahl, Ollie Johnston, and Frank Thomas. Along with some new additions to the film in regards to animators like Glenn Keane and Ron Clements, who later on do quite a few other different Disney movies. It's not really too much that goes on about it. It came out in 1977. As I said, the production had started in the mid 1970s in regards to that. There's not really too much with it since I didn't really have any bonus features to watch on the DVD. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the ability to be able to say, oh, well, this is here and this is here and this is this. There's a few other, bits here and there that are just used. Orville, there's the Goofy scream usually tends to end up being at least in almost every Disney animated movie. I think there's like the Goofy scream that happens, and Orville does 2 of them throughout the movie, so that's just kind of funny. And as I said, Penny's bear looks quite a bit like Winnie the Pooh. As I said, Bob Newhart is Bernard, Eva Gabor is Bianca. Not too much. There's not really too much in regards to some of the other characters. There's not really. There's certain people that come up and play. Film was the last film directed by Wolfgang Reitherman, who at that point had done quite a few other Disney movies. Since Walt had died, he had kind of been the one in charge of the animation department. But one of the last ones worked on by the Nine Old Men. And there were a few other things in regards to that, not too much. They show the Metro and they show Times Square, and they show the city skyline for New York and such. And there's not too much with it. There had been a discussion in regards to the film that they wanted to do a connection to it to 101 Dalmatians. And as in, like, it was part of the same world that 101 Dalmatians took place in. But they couldn't quite figure out a connection, even though they take place on 2 different continents and are several years apart. Because Dalmatians takes place in the 1960s, and then this takes place in 1970s. Not that you still couldn't have like a reference to it somewhere or the other, but they could have done something like that. They had also wanted to do a connection to Oliver and Company, which is not the next one. The next video that I would be discussing, either of this being a two-parter with the rescuers or just another, the other rescuers tied on to the end of this one, would be Fox and the Hound. So I would, there's still, I think, Fox and the Hound, and then Great Mouse Detective and Black Cauldron, and then Oliver and Company. But they had debated about using Penny to play the girl in Oliver and Company to show that she now has this new family and she's very happy and everything. But they didn't end up doing that. They just ended up making the girl in that named Penny, or named Jenny, instead. And so there's a few other bits. Bambi and his mom make cameos in it, because in the part of the movie, there's a song called "Someone's Waiting for You," and Penny's very sad, and she reminds her, oh yeah, there's still going to be someone waiting for me when I get out of here. I'll still find my mom and dad. Bambi and his mom make a little cameo appearance in the swamp. Not too much. Comparisons between Medusa and Cruella de Vil. Okay, so originally the animator that had done Cruella de Vil, who I do not remember what his name was off the top of my head, had been the guy that had done Cruella de Vil did an amazing job on Cruella de Vil. But the guy that ended up animating Medusa, Madame Medusa, had wanted to do Cruella de Vil. But then he ended up getting Madame Medusa several years later, and he kind of, was like very proud of how he animated her in regards to, she acts like she's this beautiful thing, but she's not. I mean, at least Cruella has like a sense of style about her. Regardless of whether or not she's wearing puppies, can be a little bit of an understatement. The actress that played Madame Medusa, Geraldine Page, was married to actor Rip Torn, who in 1997, 10 years after Page died of a heart attack, his wife died of a heart attack, he voices Zeus in Hercules. So, she ended up playing a villain, he ends up playing that. I don't know too much else about that relationship, but they do that. In regards to what else I can tell you about the characters, similarities between her and Cruella de Vil, of course, although Cruella doesn't have the ability to, apparently at least, make animals listen to her. In the animated stuff, she doesn't. In Once Upon a Time, we know that Cruella has the power to control animals, but Medusa doesn't appear in Once Upon a Time. Medusa appears in Once Upon a Time, like the actual Greek Medusa appears in Once Upon a Time, but because Snow White and Prince Charming have to fight her, but actually in regards to like Madame Medusa from Rescuers, no, she doesn't appear. Bianca and Bernard don't appear in Once Upon a Time, unfortunately. They don't appear in Kingdom Hearts either. As far as I'm aware, they don't. I don't remember ever seeing any of them in Kingdom Hearts when I was playing. But if anything, I thought that if they ever did do anything with like Bianca and Bernard in Kingdom Hearts, it would have just been like probably something small and cute where they pop up somewhere, or they're like a friend of Mickey or whatever. But they don't really do anything with that. They do pop up in House of Mouse. We have one here of them with Orville sitting in the crowd. And then we have another one here of them with a bunch of the other mice. We have Jacques and Gus from Cinderella. And then, of course, we have Ratican, or whatever his name is, from The Great Mouse Detective. So they're there. There's not really too much else besides that. They pop up in a few other cameos here and there. Penny had originally been debated to be played the same girl, or be the same girl that was in Oliver and Company, that ends up getting Oliver in the end. But she's not. Cruella and Medusa are very often compared to each other, and actually they had been debating about having it be that Cruella de Vil was the one that had captured Penny, instead of it being Medusa. So it was going to be Cruella de Vil that won the diamond. I'm assuming she's probably a bit more dilapidated now that she's no longer has her wealth and everything from 101 Dalmatians. So yeah. Again, don't know quite at this point in time if I'm putting the end of the Rescuers Down Under on here. I probably just will pair them together. some of the other sequel stuff, like later on when I get to Frozen and Frozen 2, and then Wreck-It Ralph, and then Ralph Breaks the Internet, those will probably end up being two different movies in and of themselves, both time, or two different videos, for one for the original Frozen, one for Frozen 2, and then one for Wreck-It Ralph, and then one for Ralph Breaks the Internet. But this one, the two of them will probably just get put together. So I will be adding the Rescuers Down Under, which, fun fact at this point in time, is also sometimes known as the Bianca and Bernard in the Land of Kangaroos. Like, you couldn't have come up with something better than that. Okay, sure, fine. We'll go with that. So they do that. I'll be going over that one after I'll watch that one probably this weekend, and then it'll get put on to the end of this video as well. So it might be a little over an hour long video once I get things edited out of this, and depending on how much I talk about it. But so I thank you very much for watching, and in a moment I'll be popping up with the next one in regards to the Rescuers Down Under. So see you in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we are back for the other half of this video, well, which is actually just coming right after you just watched me go 3, 2, 1. So it's fine. So this half of the video is going to be about the Rescuers Down Under, also known as Bernard and Bianca in the Land of the Kangaroos. Apparently they wanted to use that in a alternative title in regard to the fact that sometimes the term Down Under, which is also another term for Australia here on the northern hemisphere, is a term for Australia in the southern hemisphere, Down Under. Is either the Down Under term is not unknown or is offensive, so they had the kangaroo one. Okay, so the premise of this movie is, I'm not 100% sure how far it's supposed to take place after the original. I would assume it's just maybe a couple of months or something, or maybe like the next year or two after the original one. But this one came out in 1999, so we have a poster right here. Beautiful landscapes of Australia, and I've brought a few things to kind of dictate the Australian feel. I still have a Bustle and Lining to represent Bianca and Bernard. I've got a bunch of different lizards. I have a kangaroo. I have a koala. Can't really tell the koala. Not this kind of koala, although she is cute. This kind of koala. If you didn't guess by the Morgans reference in the beginning, at the first part of this video, yeah, One Piece fan. I just unfortunately don't really have any One Piece things. I have a Chopper bobble, or a Chopper pop vinyl, but it's over there somewhere. I've got a bunch of different lizards, kangaroo, and I do have a pop vinyl of Steve Irwin sitting down there because I grew up on Steve Irwin watching Crocodile Hunter. And there is a mouse in this movie that is very similar to Steve Irwin, although I'm pretty sure he's more based on Crocodile Dundee than Steve Irwin, because the movie came out in 1999 and Steve Irwin wasn't really household name at that point in time. The zoo was going at the time, but he was not a household name by any means. At this point in time, he was just starting. So enough about Steve Irwin for the moment. Not that I don't, adore him and miss him. Into the movie. So the young kid in the movie that ends up being rescued, or needing rescued in this case, is Cody. This is Cody, cute kid, lives in the Australian outback. He ends up being called to. He apparently seems. He has the ability to talk to animals, as a lot of Disney characters have done, as Penny had in the original Rescuers movie. And there's a system that he has set up with a lot of the other animals that are in the outback that allow them to call him, and he can come and help them try to get out of traps. So they call, a bunch of the different animals, there's like a kangaroo and a couple of other lizards that, call him, and they take him to a cliff where this giant eagle, it's called the Great Golden Eagle, called Marahute, is trapped. And, under all these different ropes and everything, and he cuts her free. She kind of freaks out at the beginning of it, of course, because she's trapped. This is a human that showed up. The human has a knife. I don't blame her for being, freaking out for the fact, if I'm captured, this thing has a knife, I'm in a trap, it's probably going to kill me. So, he cuts all the ropes and frees her, and then she saves him. He's like, oh, you're not a bad human. I save you. and then, flies around and they have fun, and then she flies him back to her nest. And she's like, okay, this is a human I can trust. She shows him her eggs. And he asks, so where's the daddy eagle? And she just looks sad. And that implies that a hunter got him, that the eagle is gone. So then Marahute drops Cody off at, just some other locations, probably fairly close to his house for him to be able to get to. And on his way back, he ends up trying to save this little, I think it's a kangaroo mouse, which is a type of mouse that they have in Australia. Here's one. It's adorable. The thing about Australia, and a lot of people have probably heard this anyway because the internet, anything that's in Australia either looks cute or looks like it can kill you. And in the case of a kangaroo, probably both. Because if you make a kangaroo angry enough, it will simply kick you. And if it kicks you hard enough, it will either, hurt your stomach enough that it may actually kill you, or if it hits your head hard enough, it may kill you. But I love most animals in Australia. I'm okay with. The small, creepy ones with 8 legs, no. By the way, forewarning, you will probably never see a spider in any of my videos because I do not like spiders. Ever. I do not like spiders. Closest thing you're ever going to get to see a video, or probably of a spider in any video I make, is possibly if I do anything about maybe Harry Potter and I show Aragog, but even then, probably not. Because that is the one scene in all of the Harry Potter movies that I will not be able to watch because arachnophobic. But okay, back to Rescuers Down Under. So Cody's on his way back. He finds this mouse, tries to save it from his trap. He falls into the bigger trap that was set for a bigger animal that tried to eat the mouse. And then we get this poacher that comes along, whose name is McClinch. I don't remember exactly what his full name was, but it doesn't matter. He's a bad poacher. He captures lots of different animals. First, he's just going to let Cody go. Then he notices that Cody has a feather that Marahute gave him. And he takes Cody back to his lair, where he has this little lizard who's called Joanna. This is the lizard. It attacks Cody at one point, which makes McClinch notice something. I do not know, I don't remember off the top of my head if they state what type of lizard Joanna is. From what I remember of larger lizards, she's not a Komodo dragon. She's not big enough or has the correct scale pattern to be a Komodo dragon. I would lean more toward, I think he calls her a Parenti at some point, but I will double check if it is written anywhere on the wiki. I will double check, or it might be later in my notes. We'll see. But the lizard's name is Joanna. It works with McClinch. And, so the McClinch captures Cody and, takes him back to his hideout, where he's going to basically kind of, try to get the information out of Cody for where Marahute is. The little kangaroo mouse that Cody had saved from the trap and had tried to save Cody from the bigger trap, runs off and finds this other mouse who they have the rescue aid societies, of course, set up all over the world. They have branches in all these different places. So goes to this mouse here, sends out a message from Australia that then goes to I think it went to the Marshall Islands. And then from the Marshall Islands, it goes to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, it goes to the United States. And then, bounces around the United States and then ends up in New York and at the headquarters of the Rescue Aid Society. Where they deem, okay, we're going to send our 2 best agents out, and that's going to be Bernard and Bianca. Where are Bernard and Bianca? Bernard and Bianca are at a very nice upscale restaurant, having dinner. Bernard's plan is that he wishes to propose to Bianca. So given the fact of, Bernard seemed to be very much already in love with her by the end of the first movie, that's where I tend to lean more towards the fact that they haven't been around. It shouldn't be that long after the original movie takes place, maybe a year, maybe 2, because the end of the original movie is them flying off the flying off in the winter on Orville's back. And in this case, it is now winter again. So I guess it could be later that same winter, or it could be the next year. I don't know. They're mice, and I don't remember exactly how long mice can live. But, these are classy mice. So Bernard's intention is to try to propose to Bianca, but he keeps getting interrupted, and that's kind of a thing throughout the movie. Keeps getting interrupted. And what ends up happening is they get a message from the Rescue Aid Society that they're supposed to, they have to, go to try to help this kid. So they, they accept, and then they head to go and find Orville, the albatross from the first movie, but he is handed over, he's handed over the business for the albatross air business to his brother Wilbur. Yes, Orville and Wilbur Wright. Yes. As I stated in the first and the other half of this video, albatrosses are very, very large birds. And a lot of the times they can fly for long, long, long distances without having to stop or land, which is very good. But, albatross flying all the way from New York to, all the way down to Australia, probably not the best idea in the world. But so, and Wilbur seems to be a little bit more on the wild side than Orville was. They're still kind of, neither of them are the smartest, but they're both very nice. And Wilbur, is like, yeah, we'll go, but we have to get a hitch ride on a bigger bird. So they hitch ride on an actual, like a jet plane that's flying down to Australia. And they get there, and they end up interacting with this kangaroo rat named Jack. This is Jack. He just got beat at checkers by a fly. I'm like, I don't know if that says more about you or the fly, but, whatever. So the Wilbur is landing, and they end up, Wilbur ends up getting hurts his back or whatever, and what ends up happening is Jack sees Bianca and kind of just instantly falls in love with her. He's like, ooh, pretty lady mouse. And Bernard, Jack kind of keeps trying to play up how cool he is to Bianca because he wants to impress her. Bianca's not really having any of it. She's like, oh, he's so nice and everything, but she kind of only has eyes for Bernard, which I think is still adorable. And Bernard doesn't like that Jack keeps trying to flirt with Bianca all the time. But they end up trying to, as I said, Wilbur gets hurt. He hurts his back. And they take him to, like, this field mouse hospital thing. And he kind of ends up having to be there for a little while. It doesn't go well, but he ends up escaping and getting, he ends up getting better and escaping and flying off. But they're working Bernard, Bianca, and Jack, because Jack agrees to help them, are on their way to try to find Cody. We cut back to Cody, who is still at McClinch's hideout, which is like in an old abandoned mine area, which the landscapes that they have in this movie are just gorgeous. I've seen so many different landscape pictures of Australia in the past, from stuff that they had for Crocodile Hunter or stuff that they've had from other movies where they use Australia, or just other shows that show Australia. If you watch a lot of shows on Animal Planet, the outback is gorgeous. There's rainforests in Australia. There's, huge, so many different areas that are shown throughout the movie. Some of them are a little bit more, fanciful than what actually exists in the outback, but they're still very, very beautifully done landscapes. And McClinch is trying to get Cody to tell him where Marhute is. That doesn't end up working well. He tries, intimidation, and then he locks Cody up in this room that has a whole bunch of other animals that are locked up. There's a kangaroo in there, there's a koala, there's a couple of wombats, there's a frilled lizard, the snakes in there somewhere, the few other, types, a few other different, very iconic Australian animals that are in there. I'm like sitting there going, and I'm watching the movie and I'm like, what was like the one animal from Australia that they didn't show in this? Because they show crocodiles at one point. They show a couple of snakes, but they're not super relevant to the story. And I'm like, was like the one animal in this that they didn't show, that they reference but don't use, is like a dingo. because you see some bugs in the movie, but you don't see like any of like the Sydney funnel web. Again, not putting a picture in here. Or the bird-eating spider, no picture. But you don't see a dingo. I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, fine. Don't put a dingo in here. Mention the dingo, but don't put one in here. There's like a wild pig at one point that they end up using, but there's nothing, there's not really anything else. And then again, they may have just wanted to stick to more of the native species to Australia as opposed to the, I guess not feral, the, oh, what did they call the, non-native, whatever. I know the word. Why can't I remember it? Invasive species. They may have wanted to stay away from the invasive species, but the dingo has been around in Australia for like 5,000 years, so I don't know when the invasive species thing ends, but moving on. So McClinch is like, well, how can I get you to give me the information I want? He locks Cody up in there, and Cody tries to get the other animals, and they almost are able to get the keys, but then Joanna stops them and puts the keys back. We show, more of, Will or Jack and Bianca and Bernard making their way toward where the hideout is, because they kind of know where, or Jack kind of knows where the hideout is, so they're making their way there, and they keep using some different animals as transportation. They use a sugar glider. This is a sugar glider. Again, it's adorable. I think that's a sugar glider that they use in the movie. I think so. I could be wrong. I might double check. I might not. Either way, sugar gliders are adorable. They also end up, Jack kind of ends up wrangling this snake for them to use. It's not a venomous snake. I'm pretty sure it's either supposed to be a boa or a python, because I believe both boas and pythons are native to Australia, but I don't remember which kind it is, but it's a snake of some kind. So this is Jack wrangling the snake. And then they run that, and at one point they run on fireflies, and then they eventually make their way to the hideout. But before then, we cut to McClinch trying to figure out how can I get the boy to talk and tell me where the eagle is, because he's a poacher. Obviously, he wants to catch the eagle and then sell it, because he did that to the mate, to Marahute's mate. So what ends up happening is, he's like, I'm hungry. So he goes to go, and this is one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, and I love the fact that it's the villain that's doing it gets done too, because it's so funny. He pulls out, like, he goes to his fridge and he pulls out like a bunch of eggs, or like in a chest of some kind, just like a little tool chest type thing, and he puts the eggs in. And this is another thing that leads me to think that Joanna is Parenti, because Joanna likes eggs, and Joanna keeps trying to take all the eggs out of the case. And what ends up happening is she ends up getting one, and she's like has it like wrapped in her tongue, like one side of her, like outside of her mouth, while he's like, ah. And he's like trying to get her to, show him the egg, and she's like, nope, not here. And then, it's just like he keeps moving the chest back and forth, and like Joanna keeps getting her hand inside of it, getting her claw inside of it, like grabbing the eggs out of it. And he's like this funny bit of just like him pushing the chest back and forth while he's just like thinking and not paying attention, and like rambling to himself. How can I get the kid to do this? No. Well, can I do that? It's just like moving the chest back and forth. And then by the time he actually ends up opening it, because he thought he outsmarted Joanna by tricking her into, like, she reaches in and he closes it on her hand, and she's like, eh. And he's like, well, I'm smarter than you. And then he opens it and all the eggs are gone. I'm like, dude, you just got outsmarted by a lizard. Some lizards are very smart in regards to, animal species. Some lizards are very smart. But from what I remember from Parentis, or about Parentis and other types of like water lizards like that, they very much like eggs. So they like to eat crocodile eggs or snake eggs, or platypus eggs. So they show a platypus at one point in the movie. I don't have a platypus in here, but I have a niffler back there, and they look a lot like platypus. So platypus niffler thing over there. So they look a lot like. So Parentis very much like eggs, and that's why I think that, and that's one of the reasons why I guess he has Joanna around. They never state exactly why he decided why he has Joanna Parenti thing with him, because Um, she just likes to eat eggs. So I'm like, okay, so is it supposed to be that you keep her around because then you take in the parent of the animal, you take in the parent and then you send her to eat the eggs so the animal stays rare? But most of the animals that you showed, Marnus, the platypus, and some of the snakes and the frilled lizard, don't lay eggs. Because like kangaroos don't lay eggs, koalas don't lay eggs, wombats don't lay eggs. And I'm like, okay, that just doesn't make any sense to me, but okay, whatever. And McClinch realizes that the eagle's eggs, are Cody's weakness. So he's like, okay, I can use that. So he, pretends to release Cody. He kicks him out of the, he's like, I don't need you anymore. Some other hunter or whatever shot your dang bird out of the sky. So, that she's gone and Cody doesn't, Cody unfortunately kind of believes him. So he's like, he's going to use Cody to lead him to the eggs. And he's like, oh, those poor eggs without their parents to, guard them and raise them. What's going to happen to them? And so Cody, heads back and like Bernard or McClinch follows him. By this point, Bianca, Bernard, and Jack was still there. Bernard, Bianca, and Jack have gotten to where the hideout is, and they end up getting onto McClint's vehicle, and they follow him as he's following Cody. Or they, ride with him as he's following Cody, and then Cody, unfortunately leads McClint back to McClinch. I thought it looked like McLeach when I first saw it, but no, it's McClinch. Leads him back to the cliff area where the mother eagle has made her nest, and Cody goes down to the nest to check on the eggs, and he sees that they're fine, and Bernard, Bianca, and Jack have followed him down there. And they're trying to warn him that no, you can't, they're trying to warn him like, no, you have to get out of here now, or no, McClinch is up on the cliff and he's gonna, hurt Marahute when she shows up. Marahute shows up, and then, McClinch launches down this like capture net type thing, captures her and starts dragging her back up out of the canyon so he can, have her captured. Take her and, kill her or skin her and, whatever else he's going to do with her, because poaching is bad. Just, if you learn nothing about, if you don't learn anything about, the whole story of this, just poaching is bad. Poaching, bad. Nope. That kind of basically just tells you where I tend to fall for, animals. Poaching, bad. Illegal hunting, bad. That's what McClinch does. It's supposed to be a way of also teaching kids that no, poaching and illegal hunting and stuff like that is bad. Then again, unfortunately, there's people who have probably watched this movie and be like, no, I want to be like McClinch. Why? But what ends up happening is, Cody ended up jumping on the net, and, he's trying to cut it free so that way Marahute can escape. Jack and Bianca end up, Jack like lassos Cody, and then him and Bianca get pulled up, and Bernard unfortunately gets left behind at the nest. And so it's Marahute, Cody, Bianca, and Jack end up all in the cage on the back of McClinch's truck. So then he lowers Joanna down so that way she can go into the nest and eat the eagle eggs. So what ends up happening is she gets down to the nest and she finds these 3 stones. They look like eggs. They're round like eggs. She tries to bite one. Nope. Other one. Another one. Like claws at it. Nope. And she ends up dropping one of the eggs on one of the rock eggs on her tail, which I'm like, yes, you deserve that. And she goes and she's like, either the eggs have like gone bad or whatever. She's not the smartest thing. So then she like knocks the rocks off the cliff, and then she gets dragged up by McClinch. And then we look down, we look back at the nest, and we see that Bernard hid all three of the real eagle eggs underneath the nest, and then put these fake rocks there. Well, the rocks aren't fake; they're fake eggs. Rocks that are shaped like eggs are there instead of the real eggs, and that's what she thought she messed with. So the 3 eggs are still okay. And, McClinch pulls up Joanna, and then they leave with Cody and the others in the Cody and Marhote and the others in the cage on the back of his truck, and they go off. And then Bernard, Wilbur, had escaped from the mad doctor at this point in time. The doctor wasn't mad; it was just kept scaring Wilbur. And Wilbur finds where Bernard is, and Bernard's like, "Okay, you have to sit on these eggs." Because I'm not big enough to be able to sit on these eggs and keep them warm. You have to sit on these eggs, and then I have to go off and try to save Bianca and the kid and the eagle and Jake. Jake, whatever. Save the annoying Australian mouse that keeps mispronouncing my name. And like he basically guilt Wilbur into it, and Wilbur stays, and he's like probably sitting on the nest pouting, and Bernard ends up making his, finally finding his way to them. He ends up kind of forcing this wild pig that's called a razorback. It's just a type of pig, wild pig that lives in Australia, to take him to where McClinch is. And McClinch basically has Cody dangling over a river that has alligators in it. Or not alligators, crocodiles. Kid that liked yeah, no, in the States, I'm like, okay, it's either a crocodile or an alligator. In Australia, oh, it's definitely a crocodile. Fresh or salt water can be left up for debate, depends on the area that you're in and the size of the animal. Although freshwater crocodiles do tend to be much more on the smaller side. They're a little more narrow, and so in regards to being narrow, their jaws look a little bit longer. They also do not have quite the bite strength as saltwater crocodiles. They also tend to not attack humans as much, simply because they more just try to run away from humans or hide from humans, simply because they don't grow as large as the saltwater ones do, so they don't quite see it as humans as something that they can try to eat. Yeah, if you mess with one, you're probably going to get attacked, so just don't mess with them anyway. But, the freshwater are a little less likely to just, bite at you if you walk by them. Saltwater crocodiles, on the other hand, you get close enough to them, and they'll snap at you. I did a report on fresh and saltwater crocodiles for one of the science fairs when I was in elementary school, middle school, and I got a purple ribbon on that, which is nice. But I used a lot of Steve Irwin stuff. So McClinch has Cody dangling over this large bits of large crocodiles are in this down in this river. And he, is ready to drop Cody in there. He's gonna tease the crocodiles with Cody by dangling him back and forth and everything. And, Bernard shows up. He's able to get the key out of the machine. He's able to, the pig attacks, or they turn the machine off. They end up saving everybody. He ended up getting where, what ends up happening is, not quite save everybody right off the bat. He gets the keys to Bianca and Jake, who get them and Marhote out of the cage. And McClinch had tried to shoot the rope that was dangling Cody above the crocodiles, so that way Cody would fall into the crocodiles and then still die. But what ends up happening is Bernard ended up getting Joanna. Actually ended up attacking. Well, not attacking, but he got. Joanna had tried to chase Bernard around, and he ended up getting her to run into McClinch, and then they fall into the water. They fall down into the water with all the crocodiles, where the crocodiles are attacking them. He starts fighting them off with his gun that falls down with him, and then Cody's rope still ends up snapping, unfortunately, and he falls into the water. And there's a cliff coming, so there's a waterfall, and McClinch falls down the waterfall. Joanna doesn't, but I hope she gets her comeuppance. Bernard ends up saving Cody, kind of. I'm like, Mouse is not strong enough to be able to pull Boy out of water, but he's able to manipulate the rope enough that he can snag it onto a root branch thing that's sticking out of the side of the cliff by the river, and he's trying to use that to hold Cody. And then they fall, but Marhote with Bianca and Jake, whatever, on the back of it, on back of Mara, they swoop down and they save Cody and Bernard, and so they're all safe on top of the Eagle. And then Bernard finally gets to propose to Bianca, and of course she says yes. And yeah, Jake's happy for them, Cody's happy for them, Marahute's happy because Cody's safe and now she can go back to her eggs. The threat to her eggs is gone. We don't really get a huge conclusion on the movie. It just basically shows that they cut back to, well, they fly off into the moon because it's night by this point in time. The course of the movie just like with the original Rescuers, just takes place over the course of a couple of days, which is good. We don't really get a huge wrap up on the end of the movie. It's just more. They cut to Wilbur, who's sitting on the nest, and then the eggs hatch to his dismay. And so he's, not happy about that. But there's not too much else. Pretty much all of the original cast returned. We still had, Bob Newhart as Bernard, Eva Gabor as Bianca. Wilbur is played by John Candy, who is a comedian at the time. He's unfortunately passed since then, but if you've seen Spaceballs with Mel Brooks, he's the Mog, the man dog. Kid Cody, Frank Welker, who is an amazing voice actor, voices Marahute. George C. Scott, who's just another. George C. Scott voiced McClinch. Not really super familiar with anything of his that I can think of. Joanna is a Spencer's Goanna. Joanna. I should have figured that out. And so she's just a Spencer's Goanna. This is a Spencer's Goanna. I don't 100% know. I don't remember exactly what they look like. I'm pretty sure I've heard of them. Or seen pictures of them, but I showed you a Parenti earlier, so you can probably do a comparison of, well, they look similar enough, and I just hadn't double checked that. We have Jake the mouse. Not really too much, as it's a bunch of other the animals that I showed you, the koala, the kangaroo. There's like 2 kangaroos. There's a Dr. Mouse. In regards to some of just the other facts about this movie. They had a few other actors in for the role to play Jack. I don't remember who else, but he's, as I said, I think they kind of based him on somewhere between like Indiana Jones and Crocodile Dundee, because given the time frame that the movie was being made, 1987 to 1990 range, was when the movie would have been in production. Crocodile, Steve Irwin was not a figure on American television at that point in time. And, Crocodile Dundee and Indiana Jones would have, because, they have Jake be very good with, a rope, so he's very good with, that type of stuff, and he's very good with dealing with animals, so I think they did, like, a combination of those for him. Let's see. According to, this had a little bit of a bonus feature thing on it, so I have a little bit of stuff for behind the scenes. In regards to the making of the movie, this apparently started what is now a tradition when it comes to different Disney movies, where they went on a research trip, which is where the people who are going to be the artists of the movie and even the story designers of the movie go to the place where the movie is supposed to take place. So they went to Australia. They went to the Outback. They went to a bunch of different zoos in Australia, or different nature wildlife parks and everything like that in Australia. They may have gone to the Australian zoo. I don't know. They went, and then when they were still here in the States, back when they were back in California with when they were doing all of the final, working on getting all the characters and everything ready for the movie, they would bring in different animals from the zoos, from, the San Francisco Zoo probably, or the, LA Zoo, or whatever other zoos were in the area. They would probably bring them in. So they had kangaroos in the studio. They had little iguanas and lizards and stuff like that in the studio. And this tradition continued. They did this for Mulan. They did this for The Lion King. They did this for, Coco. That whole tradition of, well, if we're going to write a movie about the place, we need to go there and see a bunch of these different things to see what we can work into the movie. And they did that, which, as I said, the landscapes that they designed and painted for this movie are just gorgeous. I am not a morning person, but I can tell you this, that if I ever get the chance to go to Australia and go to Ayers Rock, that will be one morning where, because one thing that I want to do if I ever go to Australia is I want to go to Ayers Rock and I want to watch the sunrise and the sunset at Ayers Rock, because that would just be breathtaking. This is Ayers Rock. It's this big giant rock-ish formation that just kind of pops up in the center of Australia. I had to do an assignment about it once for school. We had to pick something, and I don't remember exactly what the rules were, but I ended up doing like an assignment about Ayers Rock. I have a fascination with Australia. But what happened is, or that would be like one of the few times where you would get me to willingly be awake, enough time before sunrise to get to wherever I would have to be to watch the sunrise at Ayers Rock. Is like, okay, well, we're going to go to Ayers Rock now. I'm like, okay, I'm awake. Yes, yes, yes. You don't like coffee. I don't like coffee. I don't want coffee. I'm just awake. I want to go watch this. That'll be one of the few times you will get me to be awake that early in the morning, because I'm not a morning person. Not that early, at least. I will watch the sunrise at Ayers Rock. I would do that. And sunset, yeah, I'd watch that too. I have a fascination with Australia. That's very true. Australia, New Zealand, different places like that. I want to go there. I've never left the States. I want to go and see other countries. They look gorgeous. I want to go to all 50 states too, but we're getting past that. So there's not really too much else. They haven't done any other Rescuers movies since then. I'm sure they've done a few different books every now and then, I think. None that I have, unfortunately, but they've probably, they've done, book versions probably of both the original movie and this one. As I said, this one came out in 1990, so it came out about 13 years after the original one, since the first one came out in 1977. So I think that's about all that I have for this video. Yeah, pretty much. Cody probably gets home safe to his mom. Bianca and Bernard get married. I would have been perfectly fine if they did I don't know if they did a book about Bianca and Bernard getting married, but I have this image in my head if it ended up being what I think it would be it's the day of their wedding, and then there's this either a massive kidnapping ring happened, or this other kid, someone else gets kidnapped, and we have to postpone our wedding because we have to go save this kid. And they do it, and then they save the kid, and then they find a bishop mouse or something like that, or a pastor mouse or something that can perform the ceremony, then and there, or something like that. That's just what I think. And I read when I was looking up stuff for the both Rescuers movies, I saw something that was someone made the comment of, I have the theory that when Penny grew up and when Cody grew up, that they met and fell in love and got married, and then they were like, hey, you were rescued by mice, I was rescued by mice. What were their names? Bianca and Bernard? Hey, those are the ones that helped me. They're completely different continents, but, I just think that would be adorable. I just, I saw that in a post. I thought it would be very adorable too. I agree. For if you're out there and you made one of those posts about, Penny or Penny, about Penny and Cody growing up and being together, and all that, I was like, I approve. That would be the wedding. No, that would be no. Bianca and Bernard wouldn't be that old, because mice don't live that long, unfortunately. I was gonna say Bianca and Bernard. It could be that Cody and Penny's kid gets kidnapped, and then Bianca and Bernard have to help the kid. But no, considering that Penny's 10 years old, Cody's 10 years old, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. No. Although one bit about Joanna and Marahute. First of all, neither of them actually fully speak throughout the movie. All the other animals, the kangaroos, the koalas, the wombats, whatever, Cody can speak to them. But Joanna never fully talks, and neither does Marahute. But Cody seems to at least be able to understand them. and or at least he can understand Marahute, and then McClinch seems to be able to understand Joanna. I don't really know if that's supposed to imply anything. It's like we never get the whole explanation as to, like, McClinch past. We don't know about his past. I mean, like, it was probably, as I mentioned with Medusa, it's a villain that, might be a little bit exaggerated in a Disney movie, but it's still based on a villain that can really exist. Someone that does trap animals, that does want to hurt them. It's based on a real thing. There's, probably an animal somewhere out there in the world, in the United States or in Australia or in Africa or in South America or somewhere else in the world right now, that is probably being hunted and killed by a poacher who just wants to, take the animal and kill it for its tusks or its fur or its, whatever, just to make money. When that animal is in danger. And, I guess if this is anything, I guess it's a little bit of a PSA about poaching and that it's bad. So, okay, that's what I got for you. Okay, the video ended up being a little bit longer than I intended for this half of the video, but whatever. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. The next one will be Fox and the Hound. So it'll be Fox and the Hound 2, and any miscellaneous stuff that goes along with it. So I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye! Faith is a bluebird you see from afar. It's for real and as sure as the first evening star. You can't touch it or buy it or wrap it up tight, but it's there just the same, making things turn out right.